Zach, welcome to the Influence Model. My name is Ben. We have an audience of people who want to understand how AI is changing opinion shaping in Washington. Each week, we write a newsletter for the audience, translating signals from their broader world of opinion shaping, advertising. We love to bring people on like yourself who are actively building companies that are changing how we interact with government, how public affairs firms run. So I want to turn it over to you to give a little bit of background on yourself. You are founder of HillGenius, a new platform, and I understand that you just released new features. So we want to know all about that. But tell us how you got to this point of founding HillGenius as well as what it does.
Yeah, sure. So I never planned on going into the world of politics, majored in philosophy when I was in my undergrad, but I ended up going to DC and getting an internship in government affairs. So that was the first job I had straight out of undergrad. And I kind of just fell in love with the whole world of politics. So I was like, after that, I spent about a year doing that. And I was like, I gotta get up on the Hill, get up close and personal with this stuff. So I ended up at the Energy and Commerce Committee. I was there, and then I went to the executive branch. Spent a couple of years at the Department of Health and Human Services, and then based on some of the stuff that I saw there, particularly during COVID, I realized how important data management, data sharing, and then data science, which is all this cool stuff that you can do once you have this data. So I ended up studying applied data science at Syracuse, got a master's, and then for the past couple of years, I've been working as a government contractor with the Department of Defense. So done a lot of machine learning and AI stuff there. And then I kind of just thought back to my time in politics, and I was like, it was crazy, but I kind of miss it. And I was thinking about how when I was working in that world, a lot of the technology that people were using was, really old stuff that's
Yeah.
just not even close to the state of the art. So it got me thinking. I had some ideas about how I can make things more efficient. My ideas were a little bit over the top at the time because when I talked to some of the people that I worked with, they were like, "No, you don't understand. Like we still don't even have congressional hearing transcripts that are ready the day of the hearing."
Yeah.
And that just blew my mind. I was like, "Well, that's something I could solve like today." So I built like a small prototype, a couple weeks later, and kept getting feedback. Like people were asking me for transcripts. They were telling me how useful it was, so I just kept building it, and yeah, now it's actually a a somewhat successful business. And we've managed to completely change what the workflows look like for
Mhm.
some of our customers. So instead of spending literally an entire day watching a hearing, taking notes, going back to make sure everything's right, rewinding, fast forwarding, watching it on 2 times speed, where all the members sound like chipmunks, just
Yeah.
to get that product, which is like a summary of the small parts that are actually relevant to the clients or whatever it is. So we built products that just take those relevant bits to you and bring those to the forefront. And then you can actually spend your time helping the more senior people at the firm with research, all the ideas you could have that add value to those clients and help tailor their products more to those clients, which I think is what the clients want at the end of the day. And being able to be more effective, have your employees be more effective and contribute more. That's what we're all about.
And what would you say to someone who hasn't seen this technology before, who doesn't trust it? Because I know from my work, people believe that AI can do some things. There's also some lack of trust. And sometimes they want you to still sit in just in case the AI misses something. What have you found building Hill Genius with the reliability of AI? And how have you gotten it to really work in a way that people can trust it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And that kind of gets to the heart of our philosophy around AI, which is that yeah, it's not 100% reliable, but we don't think that should get in people's way of using it because it can be so helpful and save so much time.
Mm.
It's just that it's not going to be 100%. So when people talk about AI agents, like that's really exciting. There's a lot of stuff that agents can do, but you still need a human in the loop in some capacity to be managing and overseeing that work. So that's why not only every AI tool we have, even just our transcripts, like every segment in the transcript, you can actually click on each timestamp and view the video at that point in time. So if there's ever something where you want to verify it before
Yeah.
actually sending it to the clients, you can just click on that and watch the video. But I think the point is that you don't have to watch the entire video. You can just watch those parts. So that's really the value add, is that you can really just skip ahead of those irrelevant parts. But it's important to have that connection to the ground truth to enable someone to verify it. And that's really our core philosophy.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. And I know that you released new features this week. Am I correct this week?
Yeah, that's right. So we just released our hearing memo drafting feature. So the key to it is in the name. It's going to draft a hearing memo. It's not going to write it for you. So it's not going to do your job. It's not going to do your job for you. Sorry to say. You're still gonna have to get in there and ultimately be responsible for what's being produced. But early feedback from our customers is that it saves 75% of the time that they were previously spending on writing hearing memos. So I'll kind of explain a little bit. So at most firms, it'll start with one person who's kind of the expert on that hearing. So they'll be in charge of understanding the hearing, pulling out the things that are relevant to their clients or the priorities that they're looking at for that hearing of things that might come up. And then they'll write that initial draft of the memo, send it around to other people at the firm for review, etc. But it can be extremely time consuming to write that hearing memo. And it's kind of just like there's a certain form or like format that firms have. So, for example, it might be, here are all the members that participated. Here are the opening statements. This is what they discussed. Here were the witnesses. So our tool fills that all out for you, and then all you have to do is verify it. But then I think the biggest value add is that it actually creates sections based on the topics that you input for that hearing. So it'll suggest topics, but then you can also put in your own topics as well. And
Yeah.
that way it's not just a summary of the hearing, which I think is very low value, kind of like what we talked about earlier, how there's kind of like nuggets of information. So if you're actually putting in those topics, then you can have not only a summary, but something that's actually relevant to your clients. And then that's just a draft, right? So like people actually have to go in and change it and improve it. You can do that with AI by requesting
Yeah.
edits. But then there's also a user interface where every single statement in that draft, it has a citation. And I think that like just forcing it to give those citations does reduce hallucinations a lot, but we went a step further and you can actually hover over those and it'll show you the transcript at that point with the relevant parts highlighted. And then if you click on it, you can actually watch the video just at that specific point
Yeah.
where it supports that citation. So it really saves a lot of time in verifying everything by just having the information right there in the user interface versus just having a citation that you can click on and then you still have to manually go and find it.
Yeah. On ChatGPT alone, first of all, it can't listen to a hearing, as far as I understand. But that piece of you have to understand the workflow, you have to understand and build a system that you can actually click a button, go and see the actual clip of the video, exactly the timestamp where it comes from. That really requires something very custom. So it sounds like you're really tackling a problem that a model provider is not going to go after. There's a niche here and a need for a very specific industry.
Right. Yeah. I don't ever foresee OpenAI, at least not anytime soon, trying to get into the government affairs market. And if they do, I wouldn't be worried about competing with them.
Yeah. Well, so like tell me, this really changes a lot of the work for interns, associates, senior associates who are having to, watch these hearings. Like how have early clients reacted to the efficiencies that they gain from using HillGenius? What do you see?
Well, they've been able to really just provide a level up for that firm and help out with so much more higher value work, and they've been able to be more responsive to
Mhm.
clients. A lot of the times when I talk to people that are doing in-house government affairs, something they say is like, I wish our consultants took more time to understand the specifics of our business's needs and how it works, especially at kind of the more junior level where a lot of these products are being created. So we've basically allowed them to do that. Because when you talk to people that are on the consulting side, they're like, well, we have 180 clients and we're just trying to put out fires all day. So it's
Yeah.
just so much work. And with AI, you're really able to provide that higher level of service and then maybe even potentially take on more clients as well. So one thing that people have told me, there's one firm that's one of our customers. They said that when the interns first came that summer, they didn't tell them about HillGenius until a couple weeks in because they wanted them to have that
Right.
experience of like
Hmm.
having to watch the whole hearing.
A little bit
Um,
of hate.
but then once they did, they're like, "Oh my gosh, this changes everything." So we're helping a lot out at that level, which then it helps the more senior people too because all of a sudden they have people that can help take stuff off their plate. So it kind of trickles up, so to speak. And then we're looking to build new features that are going to be used by everyone at the firm as well.
Mhm.
So any seniority level.
Where do you see HillGenius growing? What kind of services? The other question that I'm going to ask is, where do you see AI affecting government relations in Washington? I think that those are going to be connected. So I'll let you give your answer there.
Yeah, that's a great one. So what our long-term goal is in terms of our roadmap is to be essentially the operating system for government affairs where you get to work, you log in, you see what's new that's directly relevant to you and your clients. So
Hmm.
it's bringing stuff to you proactively rather than you having to go around looking for the needles in the haystack, which I think is just a big time suck. So having a dashboard, there's going to be like a dashboard and a chat interface because I think, as we kind of discussed, just chat isn't enough because you need that context of like actually bringing in those sources of information where you can look at them, but kind of doing that automatically where it brings it directly to you, shows you the parts that you need to see and not
Hmm.
the parts that you don't. And we think that this could essentially lead to a situation where people can really spend their time on doing the high value tasks like being on the hill talking to people, and we also want to make that more efficient in a way too because I think if eventually the more data that we have in the platform, the more we can help people be more targeted in what they're doing. So like
Yeah.
rather than meeting with the entire delegation telling the same story, we might be able to figure out like, hey, we can actually just focus on, these two or three members based on our understanding of the entire landscape of who's likely to vote for what, how these viewpoints are changing over time, and just bringing that all in, synthesizing it, and making people more efficient with everything that they're doing. So we really want to understand our customers as much as possible and constantly be pushing that forward into that future vision.
Okay, that's very interesting. What you just said was, if I had the view of the entire landscape, right? Let's say your platform listens to every congressional hearing. Potentially you get data from other places like the news, maybe you get internal data from internal conversations. Help us understand, if we're not data scientists, bring us into the data science world. What does that look like if you had that kind of perfect information? How do language models allow us to analyze that and get value from it? Because the case that you said was very interesting. You said, if I could listen to everything, maybe I could know who to target.
Right. Yeah. So there's a lot of different ways. There's a lot of different methods. So I think it'll be interesting to see how I think different companies tackle this problem differently. I think
Yeah.
we're looking at it in a couple ways, which is like AI is very good at bringing together relevant things just due to the nature of how embeddings work. It becomes very easy to find, documents, snippets of text, video, whatever data sources they are, and kind of collect them in a way where you can have the relevant ones brought together. So that's one thing. I think that's kind of level one is like just getting the relevant information together. But then, through natural language processing and stuff like that, I want to take it in another direction where we're looking at everything holistically.
Mhm.
We're kind of using some clustering techniques to look at how members' stances on things might be changing over time. What are the patterns there, and how is that relevant to the goal is that we're trying to accomplish for our customers?
Do you think that good public affairs people think like data scientists? Why or why not?
Let me think about that. Yeah, I mean, I would say the people I would say to yeah, short answer, yes. Like people in government affairs are the ones that I've known are extremely clever when it comes to using the resources that they have. I think what we're trying to do is just put give them better tools and tools that are made for them so that they can immediately pick them up and say, I know how to use this. This is something that I can use to achieve X outcome. Because from what I've seen, if you're going to be a successful government affairs firm, you have to be really good at finding all the relevant information and just taking that raw data and turning it to insight for your clients, which I think is exactly what data scientists do as well.
Mhm.
So I think it's just a matter of them having access to the right tools.
Yeah. And it takes something like HillGenius to bridge that gap and to give a firm leverage because you can't be everywhere all at once. That's what I saw in my work. And, ultimately, quality suffers if you don't have all the data, but also the right data coming in. Let me ask you a
Yeah, and
different.
that's
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's why we spend so much time getting our transcripts to be extremely high quality. It's not because that's the entire market that we're going after. It's because we need to spend a lot of time perfecting that to get high quality data that's going to enable all these exciting things that we want to do down the road.
So let me take you to the startup and entrepreneur side. What is one of the most exciting moments in your journey as an entrepreneur?
To me, the most exciting thing was when I talked to a potential customer and they said, this was before I even wrote a single line of code, and they said, yeah, if you built this, we would pay for it. And
Wow.
that was just the biggest motivator. That was like rocket fuel to me as like a solo bootstrap founder. After that, I just literally spent all my free time trying to make this as good as I possibly could. And that kind of just lit a fire unlike anything that I've experienced, and I'm extremely passionate about this.
Must be an amazing feeling. And are you still bootstrapped for the moment? You haven't taken any external funding?
Yeah, TBD on that.
Okay. TBD on that.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. And just out for my curiosity, because AI allows us to build things that we never would have before, from software engineering to the amount that we can write and process information. Did that speed up your timetable for developing HillGenius? You talked about this spending free time. Was AI also in there with you in the development process?
That's a really good question. Absolutely. I could not have started this company and gotten it to where it is without AI. Like even figuring out how to start a company, like actually forming an LLC, AI was able to like just being able to educate myself so quickly on all the stuff that you have to learn, like the bookkeeping, registration, tax stuff, all that. But then actually developing the product, it was like a 10x at least multiplier. Just using AI to help me code, using it to synthesize information, like every single sales call that I do with a potential customer, I record that and I ask them all about their workflows. And then it helps me like just put that all together, which actually informs how I develop my products, is because I have all this information about about how the workflows work. And if I hadn't been recording it, I would have just, forgotten most of it. But
Yeah.
feeding it into AI really just helps it. And then just using stuff that I've written in the past to help write new posts, new emails,
Mhm.
things like that. So yeah, it's been huge. And I certainly could not have built this company without AI.
I think one of the things that people don't understand and something that HillGenius is built off of is that natural language data, particularly voice data, is so rich in information from what the words are to how long the conversation is, how it's said. And if you're not capturing it, you're missing out on a whole tail of data. I feel the same thing. Every meeting I have gets summarized by AI and action items get mined out of it. So now you're doing that for things going on the Hill. but that's so interesting that you're also incorporating that philosophy into sales calls. What would you say to someone who is a busy public affairs professional who really says they don't have the time to figure out how to use AI? What would you say to them?
I would say just try to find something where it can save you a little time. Like there's so many things, whether it's just helping to write an email that maybe you have to write similar emails to a lot of people, and that's taking up a lot of time. Or you need to create an email with do outs from a meeting, or maybe just do a little bit of basic research. You don't have to think of it as learning how to use AI as a whole process. You can just get started on something simple, find out if you like it, if it helps you, and take it from there. I would say anytime you incorporate something new, there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve,
Mhm.
but ultimately it's going to save you so much time that you would be well served to do it in some way.
Well, Zach, thank you so much for being part of this conversation. I want to ask, is there anything else that we kind of missed that we didn't cover and that you wanted to cover in this conversation?
No, I would just say like, the world is changing really fast. There's a lot of fear out there. Like, is AI gonna take jobs from people? Stuff like that. But I think it's also a huge opportunity for those that choose to take advantage of it. So, what I try to tell people is try to take advantage of it and be someone that's proactive on this, and it's going to serve you well.
And that's worked really well with you so far, well for you so far with building an entire company using AI. Almost sounds like a co-founder in some ways.
Yeah, I sometimes think of it that way myself.
That's awesome. Zach, thank you so much for your time today and looking forward to staying in touch.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks, Ben. It's been great talking to you.
Thank you.